All right, history of nursing. We are up to Alice. This was Florence Nightingale's protege, and she's on the boat. She's coming over from London over to America, where she is going to reform the Philadelphia hospital. All right, so I like Alice. I think I like her. I gotta say, she's a woman after my own heart. She knows how to make things happen because she's on this boat and she gets word that the people are not happy that she's coming over from America or coming to America from London. They would prefer an American to be reforming this hospital system in Philadelphia. So she gets word of this and she's on this boat with her friend. She brought her homegirl. So she brings homegirl Edith Horner. Edith is her homegirl, and basically together these two start socializing on the boat and making friends. Okay, so high society friends. How you get shit done. So basically what ended up happening was they find these women of influence in Philadelphia society, and they basically impress them with their British manners, culture, and background because they're hoity-toity high society, but they're really not. But they are, and never mind. They're a legend. I mean, you gotta think it and walk it before you do it. So here we are. So while on board, Miss Fisher and Edith Horner decide that they are going to hobnob with the socialites on this boat, and they're going to bring them into their philanthropic adventures that they're going to do when they get to the States. And of course, the high society ladies buy into this, and they're like, absolutely, we're going to help you. And what happens? They get off the boat, and media, see how the history ties everything? Media, the Philadelphia Times, announces that these nurses are arriving and that they are of good social position in England, and we should be so honored to have them here in America. So they get a little leg up when they get to wherever they're going, Philadelphia. So she basically retained and developed the nurses that she liked. And if you weren't up to par, she got rid of you. So this ruffled feathers because she came and she was basically like, if you're vicious, ignorant, or intemperate, end of quote, you're gone. Well, the disgruntled hospital employees were not happy with this. So they wrote letters to her, and they actually sent a box with a bomb in it to her house. And thankfully, the post office intercepted that. So that is how that ended up going. So now we have Fisher, who understands the value of informing the public about the information of nursing because she already saw the success of those newspaper articles. So she decides that she's going to open to the public that you can come and learn about nursing. So she opens up this basically public forum to raise awareness about nursing. So everybody comes to this, and it was filled, and it basically filled the school within 3 days. And the reporters, again, from the Philadelphia newspaper were all there to get a little snippet of the talks about the nursing industry and the nursing profession that is all getting ready to launch here. So then she starts to have tea for the nurses. I'm telling you, I love this lady. I love Alice. I think Alice got hoodwinked here because we don't talk about Alice. Alice had tea time where from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, they were all drinking tea. The nurses were drinking tea. The nurses had tea time back then from 3 to 5. And then at 8 o'clock, they would eat dinner. How far we have fallen. She died of I don't know. She had heart failure. And she basically ended up passing away. And that was at the age of 49. But she continued to work in the hospital, and they said towards the end of her days, she was pushing a wheelchair around the hospital and seeing patients still. So it's kind of crazy. Before her death, homegirl Edith, resigned her position to marry the senator. Homegirl wasn't a fool. She was like, I'm going to marry one of these politicians while I'm here. So she married that, but I don't know how that all worked out. At any rate, then basically the American nurses started getting mad because now we had more nurses coming over from London. And so now we have a little bit of a disdain because the American nurses were a little bit mad at the London nurses, and the London nurses were mad at the American nurses just because of cultural differences and such. Okay, there's two other people I want to mention here that's not talked about in the history of nursing, and it is going to be Linda Richards, who was the actual first U.S. trained nurse, and then there is Mary Mahoney. She was the first African American professionally trained nurse in 1877. Linda graduated in 1873. And so I think that is something that we don't talk about either. So I think that should be noted as well. Next, I'm going to talk about the letter that Miss Alice Fisher sent to Florence Nightingale to talk about all the craziness that was going on and how Florence guided her through that. So that'll be the next part. And then we're going to get into the ANA and how that all came about because that's crazy.